I don't know about y'all, but I am a superstitious person, and if you don't subscribe to this Titans YouTube channel, Titans are going to lose their very first game in the playoffs. Now, if you also want news, rumors, and content the entire offseason, hit that sub button, turn on those notifications. That way you don't miss a thing. Tennessee Titans rumors and news coming at you here from Chat Sports. Mitchell Renz ready to break it all down. And probably the top thing that's trending right now around Tennessee is what's the future looking like for star running back Derrick Henry. Now, Henry went down 2 months ago with an injury. We didn't really know if he was going to be able to come back, and he is yet to be activated to return to play, though I have seen some pretty positive reports out there that say maybe King Henry will be back out there on the playoff field. Now, the Titans, they are obviously going to be taking a cautious approach because it's not only about this season. I understand they are the number 1 seed, but with the amount of money that they invested in this guy, they need to make sure that he's ready to go for multiple seasons in the future, and he is returning from surgery on his foot. Now, here's what head coach Mike Vrabel had to say on Henry. I think for Derrick having not been out there, I think that there's going to be some looks that he's going to have to get in practice. We're going to have to see how he responds to some cutting and some reactionary stuff. We'll continue to look and see how he's progressing, and then we'll make a decision. I personally know this. Derrick Henry, he wants to play. He probably thinks that he can play him. A 75% Henry is probably better than most running backs in the National Football League. Now, when you consider the fact that he hasn't played in almost maybe 2.5 months, and he's got 219 carries, 937 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, he is the best back when fully healthy in the league. And for Tennessee, if you want to be able to make that Super Bowl run, I get it. D'Onta Foreman's been a cool story. Ryan Tannehill had himself a heck of a game this past week. But let's face it, if you want to win the Super Bowl, if you want to hoist the Lombardi, you need to do it with Derrick Henry. I mean, there's just nobody else better. Would you want to tackle this guy in January and February? Honestly, no. I wouldn't want to tackle him in March, April, June, July. It doesn't really matter what month it is. The fact that he's out there, the fact that this team wants to be physical, it all starts on the back of him. Now, look at some of these numbers here because I chuckle because he's 11th best in the NFL this season with 219 carries. Again, he hasn't played in 2.5 months. Rushing yards, top 10. Yards per game, 117.1. Touchdowns, 10. That's even top 6. This guy is an absolute monster. Now, Foreman has been good. A lot better than I think a lot of people would have ever expected. It's almost like Foreman thinks he's running back at Texas again. Dontrell Hilliard is a little bit of a spell back, but this team has had a lot of injuries at the running back position. So here's your time to look into that crystal ball. Will Derrick Henry play in the playoffs? I want you to go down in the comments section and type Y for yes, or I want you to go ahead and type N for no. Now, if you want to go ahead and bet on the NFL playoffs, there is one place to do it and one place only. That's at BetUS, and we got a hell of a deal going on. In fact, it's the best deal on the internet. I actually challenge you to try to find a better one. Why? You're not going to do it. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, use promo code chat125, you're going to get a 125% deposit bonus. For those of you that don't know what that means, if you put down $100, you actually get $125 for free to bet with. If that still is like another language to you, imagine picking up the phone, ordering a pizza. They give you an extra pizza on top of that for free, and then they give you 2 extra slices. Yeah, now I got your attention. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code chat125. If you want to go ahead and bet on some of these AFC wildcard games, here are the favorites. Chiefs, -13 up against the Steelers. Bills, -4 up against the New England Patriots. The Cincinnati Bengals, -5.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Tennessee Titans 2022 opponents was released this week, and 8 of their games are going to be at home. 9 of the games are going to be on the road. Now, Tennessee, they have a pretty difficult schedule this next coming season, and I get it. Just because of what we saw this year doesn't mean it's going to happen next year. But you're going up against 7 teams that made the playoffs. There's 14 teams that make the playoffs every single year. Now, in terms of some of the games that are going to be at home, you got the Cincinnati Bengals, the Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, obviously your division rival, the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders, and then the New York Giants. So those are your 8 home games in. Definitely a handful of some playoff caliber teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, as you see right here. In terms of some of the road games, This is where I think it kind of turns into a little bit of a gauntlet. You got to go to Buffalo. You got to go to Green Bay. We'll still see what Green Bay is, because if Green Bay doesn't have Aaron Rodgers, then going to Green Bay and facing Jordan Love is something that y'all are probably going to love. The Texans, they're a joke. The Colts, they're definitely a little bit of a difficult team. The Jags, the Kansas City Chiefs, that's a really tough road game. In LA, that's a tough road game. Philadelphia Eagles, that's a playoff caliber team. And then I don't know what's going to happen to Washington. They were playing pretty solid before all their players ended up going on the COVID list, but some really, really tough games, especially on the road there for Tennessee. Now, after seeing the home and after seeing the road games, obviously we don't have the 2022 schedule yet. All we have is who they're going to be playing at home and on the road. So go ahead, let me know down in the comments section, predict the Titans' record in 2022. This is probably not going to be all that entertaining, but I'm going to go 12-5. Why? Because the Titans, they finished 12-5 this year, and realistically, if Derrick Henry would have played the entire season, they probably win an additional 2 games. So I'm going to go 12-5. I'm going to say they finished exactly what they did this season. Let's get into some more news here around the Titans. Jonathan Jones, he tweeted out on January 10th that per sources, the Giants have put in a request to interview Titans VP of Player Personnel, Ryan Cowden, and Titans Director of Player Personnel, Monti Ossenfort, for their vacant GM position. So remember, the Giants, they let go of Dave Gettleman. Could you potentially see some of these other teams try to pick away some key people from Tennessee? Some other players that we're going to break down here, Jeremy McNichols. This has been a dude that's been on the roster for most of the season. He was actually a guy that I actually thought could potentially get cut during the 53-man roster cuts a few months ago. He was signed to the practice squad after being released earlier this week. And then Ryan Tannehill, Offensive Player of the Week after just a dominant performance here for the AFC. His Week 18 stats up against Houston, 23 of 32, 287 yards, 4 touchdowns. I know a lot of people out there like, man, that game was a nice revenge game, since Houston beat you all 36-13 a little bit earlier on in the season. The Tennessee Titans are the number 1 seed in the AFC as it stands right now, which means, well, they don't have to play this week. So this is the first time that you're seeing this 14-game kind of breakdown. Number 1 seed gets the bye. What we're going to be breaking down here on today's show is who could the Titans potentially be playing in their next game. Now, I know a lot of people, when they look at the tournament bracket, they're like, oh, so it's going to be the winner of the Raiders and Bengals game. No, that's not how the NFL playoffs works. Remember, whatever the lowest seed is going to be going up against Tennessee. So as it stands right now, the Chiefs are the number 2 seed, taking on the number 7 seed Steelers. The number 3 seed Bills taking on the number 6 seed Patriots. The number 4 seed Bengals taking on the number 5 seed Las Vegas Raiders. Now, when you look at the first matchup here, the Chiefs and the Steelers, the over-under is 46 Chiefs. They're 13-point favorites. Guess what? I'm going to take the Chiefs to win this game because just a few weeks ago, we saw Kansas City blow out Pittsburgh 36-10. New England and Buffalo, this is going to be a pretty interesting game. The first time we watched these two teams play, Mac Jones threw the ball 3 times. Patriots won in a wild Monday Night Football type of game. And then the Bills, this past time they played, they went ahead and they got the victory. The Bills, though, -4. The over-under in this one is 44. In terms of the Las Vegas Raiders and Bengals game, Cincinnati is -5.5. The first time that these two teams played was all the way back in Week 11. The Bengals took care of business 32-13 up against the Raiders, but the Raiders have won 4 straight games. What's really interesting is both of these teams, Raiders haven't won a playoff game since 2002. The Bengals, they haven't won a playoff game since 1990. Now, when I look at all those teams there, the team that obviously I think y'all want to go up and face is the Pittsburgh Steelers, 9-7-1. The only way that happens is if they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't personally believe that's going to happen. And when you're talking about, okay, who could be the next teams that end up going up against Tennessee, there is only 4 teams. It's just simply the way that the playoff bracket works. So who would you want to face? Would you want to face the Cincinnati Bengals, the 4 seed, type CIN? Would you want to face the Las Vegas Raiders, the 5 seed, type LV? Would you want to face the New England Patriots, the 6 seed, type NE? Or the Pittsburgh Steelers, type PIT? Now, for you guys to make it this far in the video, that means we're doing something right here. So you made it this far. I appreciate you. Just so we know who the real ones are, and wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm going to tell producer Jack, if you see the word sub down in the comments, that means you made it this far in the video. And the first 5 people that type sub, we're going to give you guys a shout out on the next Titans video.